So thank you again, Angie. Tonight, I would like for you to turn to Acts chapter 12. And while you're doing that, let me just say, next week is our Tennessee Network Council. I get bonus points because I didn't call it District Council. 50 years of saying that. But anyway, is our Tennessee Network Council. And then, so Chuck Surratt is going to be bringing a word next week. And the following week, I'm going to be starting a new study. And I haven't decided yet, but we're going to be in one of the minor prophets. So, somewhere between Joel and Malachi. So, somewhere in there. Just keeping you on your toes. Read them all, and then you'll be covered. And the thing about it is you can read them all. That's why they're called minor prophets, not because, when they said their name back in those Old Testament times, you kind of heard that, that chord, like, ooh. And it's not because they're not important. It's just because their books aren't as long. So I don't know. One of the books I think has 14 chapters. Some of the books are as short as 2 chapters. So easy to read. You find Jonah in there. Everybody likes Jonah. Fish story. Anyway. In Acts chapter 12, let's read the first 5 verses. It was about this time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. And when he saw that this met with approval among the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread. After arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. So I want you to help me tonight. I want you to say this phrase, but the church was praying. Let's do it again. But the church was praying. So you're going to help me tonight. And so I'm going to give you a signal. Here's the signal. When I do this, you're going to say, man, you guys are right on it. You're so good. So Peter was in prison. It looked like a dire situation. King Herod wanted to strengthen his political position. He arrests some of those who belonged to this, what they thought was a cult called the Way. To the delight of the Jewish leaders, he intends to persecute the church. Verse 2 tells us that he had James put to death with the sword. And if you remember the Gospels, the 3 disciples that were closest to Jesus were who? Peter, James, and John. I need to turn the volume down on my phone so I don't hear myself. If you ever have trouble remembering who the 3, just remember Peter, James, and John in a sailboat, right? Some of you remember that song. I'm not singing it, so you can be especially thankful for that. But these 3 were with Jesus when he healed Jairus' daughter. Remember, he went in, put everybody else out besides her parents, these 3 disciples. And he raised her from the dead. And then what did he tell Peter, James, and John? Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. We're just going to let everybody think that she was just kind of sick and that she was okay. They were with him on the Mount of Transfiguration. They were close by in the Garden of Gethsemane. Now James had been martyred for the cause of Christ. And Peter is imprisoned, and it looks like he's going to experience the same fate. Herod wasn't trying to frighten the church. He wanted to persecute the church. He had eliminated one leader, and he's about to eliminate another. Verse 4 tells us that Peter was guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. I mean, they've already had this dead body disappear from the tomb. They didn't want any more monkey business going on. So you got 16 hardened soldiers that are watching the jail. We're not going to have a jailbreak. Peter's in prison, and I mean, it looks bad. His trial starts the next day. He's chained to these guards. There's nothing that Peter can do. And the story doesn't really go into detail on this, but Peter's sleeping. He knows what his likely fate is the next day, but he's all right. And this is not where I'm going with this tonight, but just know that when you have faith in God, you can be right in the middle of the storm and you can still have peace. This is where he was. The church is praying for Peter, and they couldn't say, hey, just remember Acts 16. Because Acts 16 hasn't happened yet, right? 12 comes before 16. Paul and Silas in prison, and they're having a little praise service in there, and the prison doors come open, the shackles fall off. The church, they don't know that that's down the road. They just know that Peter's in prison. They know that it looks bad. They knew he was in prison, but Herod intended to persecute the church. But today, the enemy wants to persecute the church, and he wants to imprison God's people. We don't have to look very far. We see it in families that are in bondage. We see spouses that don't believe. We see family members that are away from God. We see marital difficulties, lack of communication, struggle over finances, unfaithfulness, abuse. We see it. Unfortunately, I wish I could say, well, that's just happening to people in the world, but it's not. That's happening in the church. The enemy is trying to imprison people physically. Just think about the people that we regularly pray for here in our church family. People have cancer. People have heart problems. People have back problems. There's arthritis, Parkinson's disease. There's dementia. And I know I'm leaving a whole bunch of things out. But the enemy is attacking. He's trying to imprison people physically. They're imprisoned by ungodly habits. People struggle with dishonesty, with gossip, with stealing. Again, I wish I could say this is just the world, but it's not. We see it in the church. People dealing with pornography or laziness or unclean speech, dealing with addictions. The enemy wants to keep people so weighted down with these struggles that they have given up the hope of being free. And that's where some people are. They've just kind of settled. They just assume that this is just the way my life is going to be. And maybe at one point they prayed and they asked God to take care of it. And maybe he didn't do it in the time frame that they thought. And so now they've just settled. Think about it. People are imprisoned spiritually. They're wandering. They're looking for truth. They need power. They need boldness. They need revival and renewal. They need to meet the one who can set the captives free. People are imprisoned by undisciplined minds and by an uncontrolled thought life. People are struggling with pride and envy and anger and bitterness and lust and materialism and greed. They're trying to break free, but they can't do so in their own strength. Peter was imprisoned and the situation looked hopeless, but man, I hope we grab a hold of that tonight. That something happens when God's people are praying. The church was earnestly praying to God for Peter. The King James says prayer was made without ceasing unto God for him. It wasn't like they said, hey guys, we're going to get together. We're going to have a little prayer meeting for Peter. Who's going to bring the nachos? Yeah. I'll bring the little pigs in the blanket. Make sure we got some ranch. We'll pray a little bit and then we'll have a little fellowship. That wasn't what they were doing. This is life or death. Serious situation. They're praying for Peter. The Living Bible says earnest prayer was going up to God from the church for his safety. The New American Standard. But prayer for him was being made fervently by the church to God. They did not stop praying for him. Peter was in prison. The church said, we know that James was killed, and we know that Peter is close to the same fate, but we're going to face this battle with prayer. What am I trying to do tonight? I'm just trying to encourage us to be people of prayer. I mean, if I'm just boiling this down to one thing, we've got to be people of prayer. And it doesn't matter what it is that we're facing, and it doesn't matter how dire it looks, and it doesn't matter if this happened to this person. You know, sometimes when someone's got a physical thing going on, somebody else always has to chime in and tell you, oh, I know a person that happened to, and man, they suffered and they died. That's not how we need to look at it. It doesn't matter if that's true for someone else. This is a different situation. We need to be praying for God. We know that Peter is close to the same fate, but they said, we are going to battle in prayer for him. You might run across someone that says, man, I'm dealing with this issue, and I don't even have time to pray. You ever heard somebody say that? We can't afford not to pray. That's where our true power comes from. Praying is doing something. Sometimes the prison walls seem to close in, and there's nothing else that you can do. I mean, there's nowhere else. You're stuck between a rock and the Red Sea. There's nowhere to go. We need to pray. I mean, there's times when the doctor says, there's nothing more we can do. There's times when a spouse says, I'm not interested in your God. There's times when maybe your own voice has said, I don't know if I can break free from this. But the church was praying. You see, Jesus has the key to every situation. And if we'll invite him into those situations, he can open every single prison door, bar none, pun intended. We can invite him into our situations through prayer. The enemy wants you to believe that there is no hope, there is no future, but the church was praying. Now look at verses 6 through 10. The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains. So that just makes me think he's chained to this one and he's chained to that one. He can't get away. There's nothing that can be done. Sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly, that's how God usually moves. I mean, that's how it appears to us that he moves, suddenly. But truthfully, he's always working. It's just that when we actually see it, it's the suddenly. An angel of the Lord appeared and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. Quick, get up, he said, and the chains fell off Peter. What the angel was doing was really happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. Peter had seen visions before. Remember, he was on the rooftop when he saw the sheet let down, and God said, get up and eat. And then God said, hey, go with these men. He went to the home of Cornelius. He thought, this is just something that I'm seeing. Verse 10 says they passed the first and second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself, and they went through it. And then when they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. Man, what a story. I mean, they've done everything they can do. He's in solitary confinement, except that he's got guards chained to him. And the chains fall off. There's light in the cell. The door opens up. All the guards that are supposed to be, they're all in some kind of divine slumber. And then the angel just disappears. And then verse 11 says, Peter then came to himself. Well, now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were anticipating. I love this because it says, again, he knew what was coming, but he is so confident in God that he's having a good sleep. How could that happen? I mean, how can all that miraculous stuff happen? Well, here's how. The church was praying. The church was praying. They didn't just hey, we got a lot of needs that we need to address tonight. So we're going to pray for Peter and then let's move on. They focused in because they knew that his life was in danger. Verse 12, when this had dawned on him, on Peter, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. It was late at night, but the church was still praying. If we want to see God move in the lives of people, let me just see hands. How many of you have somebody in your family that needs Jesus? I think every one of us. We have someone that needs God in her. If we want to see a breakthrough in their lives, church, we need to be praying. We need to be praying. It has to be more than just throwing it on after grace at the meal. Has to be more than just a good night prayer. Prayer was a priority for the early church, and it needs to be a priority for us. Acts 1:14 says they all joined together constantly in prayer. 2:42 says they devoted themselves to prayer. 4:24 says they raised their voices together in prayer. This is what the church did because they knew there was power in prayer. Many of those who were involved in these early church prayer meetings, many of them had seen the risen Christ. It changed them. You or I have not literally seen the risen Jesus. But we know that he has. And we know that because he has been raised, God's power is available to us. That's what his word says. Jesus said, my house shall be called a house of what? A house of prayer. So it's important for us to gather together and to pray as a body, to pray over these prisons that are holding people back from God's best. But it's something that we need to do corporately. But it's more than that. It's something that we need to be doing as individuals, that we continue faithfully in prayer, that we pray always, that we pray everywhere, that we persevere in prayer, that we pray powerfully. As believers and as a church, if we want victory, if we want to see those prison doors come down, if we want to see minds liberated, if we want to see habits fall away, if we want to see broken bodies restored, families put back together, we need to be people of prayer. Peter was in prison, but the church was praying. And it doesn't matter what type of prison that you're aware of. And maybe that prison isn't even around you. Maybe it's around someone that you know. Maybe someone's in bondage. But it doesn't matter what type it is. Jesus holds the key to every prison door. And I want prison doors to be opened for individuals tonight. I want prison doors to be open for our church tonight. You see, Peter was in prison, but the church was praying. And I don't even know what time it is right now. My watch battery died. So somebody tell me, what time is it? 7:15, okay. I purposely did not want to talk a long time tonight because I want to give us some time to pray. If you want prison doors open, maybe for yourself, maybe for a loved one, for the church, I invite you tonight to come and find a place to pray. And then after a time, we're going to come together and we're going to agree together in prayer. Let's call upon God because nothing is too difficult for him. It doesn't matter what the doctors say. It doesn't matter what your checkbook says. It doesn't matter what anyone says. If the church will pray, miracles are possible. So would you come and would you find a place?